From costing Spotify $4 billion because of Neil Young's boycott, to Trevor Noah accusing him of being a racist, here are celebrities who hate Joe Rogan. The list may come off as a surprise because people actually like the guy. And if they're in that political stance, they'll even pay close attention and agree with what he has to say, unlike the other listeners who are there for the funny moments and memes. His podcast, which has been the main reason for Rogan's relevance and popularity, welcomes guests of all kinds. And what people appreciate about him is he's so straightforward about everything. Sure, some conspiracies are a little too far-fetched, but he manages to make them funny either way. Podcast aside, he's a multi-championship winning Taekwondo fighter, a stand-up comedian, a reality game host, an actor, and a UFC commentator. So he's had plenty of times to earn an audience. But it seems that over the years, Joe has earned just the same number of haters, and some of them include world-famous celebrities. This is because of the podcast host's insensitive comments on certain topics, or because of his insane conspiracy theories. Now, an example of the latter is Neil Young's reaction to Rogan's COVID-19 theories. And let's just say the UFC commentator sure doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. Within the span of a year, Rogan claimed that healthy young people don't need a vaccine. Myocarditis is common in people who are vaccinated. Ivermectin, which is an anti-parasitic, helps cure the virus once infected. Lockdowns make things worse. mRNA vaccines are gene therapy, and the body's antibodies are more than enough to combat the COVID virus. Someone really needs to give him a few biology lessons. Neil Young noticed what Rogan was doing and called for Spotify to either remove his entire discography from the streaming service or ban the Joe Rogan Experience. Spotify ended up sticking with the podcast, which led to a bunch of other artists giving them the same option: remove Joe or remove our music. When the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer packed his bags, the company lost nearly $2 billion. His hatred for Rogan got to the point where he urged other artists to look for alternative platforms because Spotify chose to side with the man spreading false information about a very serious topic. Remember, this was during peak lockdown. In his favor, other well-known musicians listened to Neil and left the platform, causing it to lose even more money. And Joni Mitchell joined Young in solidarity. Her statement threw shade at Rogan, referring to him as an irresponsible person spreading lies that are costing people's lives. She said that she sides with Neil Young on her official website, and she also stands with the global scientific and medical communities on the issue. Mitchell even backed her claims with statements from medical professionals who also called the podcast host out on his lies. With her removing her music from Spotify, the company lost a further $2 billion. Do the math. That's a lot of money. Many celebrities dislike Rogan for his takes on the coronavirus and the rules people should follow. And this includes Prince Harry, too. Yes, the Prince Harry. I won't bore you with any more COVID talk. So what else do stars not like about Joe? While he is too busy telling his listeners misconceptions about a deadly virus, Rogan has also made misogynistic comments, which ticked Trisha Paytas off real bad. When internet personality Ali Makovsky was a host on the show, she mentioned the YouTuber's OnlyFans account to the host. He asked to see a rather explicit image of the star, and as soon as he took a glance, he reacted by saying, "Yeah, you can keep that." Now, Paytas was not going to take this lightly. Joe's tone told her everything she needed to know about the guy. Trisha uploaded an 8-minute-long video titled Dear Joe Rogan, where she called him out, saying that not every woman is here to pleasure his eyeballs. She also talked about self-esteem issues many models have, and the way the 55-year-old reacted to her pictures might be the same way those models react to themselves. Now, the YouTuber may have had a reason to upload a video addressing Rogan, but Charmed actress Alyssa Milano just felt like ranting on Twitter one day with no motive. And boy, was she in a bad mood. Milano talked about politicians like Donald Trump to internet personalities like the host of the eponymous podcast, the same podcast that has more listeners and fans than her Sorry Not Sorry show. The actress was baffled at how he has thrice the listeners than she does. But what she failed to realize is that Joe covers a wider range of topics than she does on our podcast. His content isn't limited to just one demographic. You can find yourself tuning in about COVID statistics on one show and stumble upon conspiracy theories about the Illuminati in the next. Joe didn't let Alyssa's statement slide so easily. Being the shady commentator he is, he accused the actress of shifting from actor to activist as soon as the calls stopped coming in. Knowing who his fans are, they wasted no time to agree and praise the host and to bully Milano for what she said. But this wasn't the first time he let out his inner misogyny. No siree. Caitlyn Jenner told TMZ in 2020 that Joe has a lot to learn, and this was in response to a series of transphobic comments that not only harmed her and her family, but the whole trans community as well. While talking to Tim Kennedy on his self-titled podcast, the host came up with an offensive story that trans people only transitioned because of their environment. To top it all off, he used Jenner as an example and repeatedly dead-named her. Rogan brought her family into this, saying that living with crazy family members long enough probably turned her into one. You know, because she might have gone crazy. Oh, and let's just say, he didn't really use the words family members. I'm pretty sure you're aware of his explicit language on his shows. Caitlyn fought back and called him a homophobic and transphobic man. Again, another word was used in the place of man. She said that the stand-up comedian has made a career out of putting other people, especially minorities, down and making jokes about them. The former Olympic gold medal winning decathlete clarified that her family had nothing to do with her transition. She also added that she suffered from gender dysmorphia for as long as she can remember. If you thought that was the end of Rogan's reign of transphobia, you ain't seen nothing yet. He's also beefed with former MMA athlete Fallon Fox. It all started in 2013, when the commentator voiced his disapproval of the latter's fighting license on his podcast, since she's transgender. He made a bunch of problematic comments, like dismissing her identity and how an operation didn't shave down her bone density. Fox wasn't going to let him say all these things about her and compared her situation with 1940s MLB legend Jackie Robinson. The first African American to play professional baseball also received backlash for his race. People would say that he had an unfair advantage because black people had larger heel bones than white men. Nothing major surfaced after that until Joe made more transphobic comments in 2021. He said that the one thing generally dumb people can do to improve their reputation is to change their gender. The former featherweight found out and tweeted her opinions about his statements and urged Spotify to take down his podcast. Now, since Rogan was a UFC commentator, there's no denying that he beefed with more athletes throughout his career. One of them includes former UFC champion Tito Ortiz, who wasn't happy about the podcaster's decision to move to Texas from California. Joe's reasons for this were the overpopulation and homelessness of the state, while Ortiz, who's a huge Trump supporter, called him a quitter and a sellout. To add salt to the wound, this happened when the former MMA fighter found a newfound interest in politics and was running for city council of Huntington Beach, California. Seeing someone who you thought had your support move away as soon as you're making a huge step in your career doesn't quite maintain a healthy friendship. Now, does it? Tito accused Joe and other Hollywood stars of being cowards for moving away when their beloved state needed their support the most. Speaking of Trump supporters, Trevor Noah called Rogan out for repeatedly using racial slurs on one of his shows. Joe did issue a public apology on his Instagram, saying he didn't mean to sound racist, but Noah wasn't buying any of it. Call it the clash of the hosts, because the host of The Daily Show argued that the 55-year-old used racism as a form of comedy. He mentioned how offending black people would gain him a few laughs, and it probably did. But Noah talked about comedy in general, saying how he adores all types of jokes, whether it's lighthearted or diabolically dark. Now, just because something is a joke doesn't mean that it can't be racist. You remember when his fans attacked Alyssa Milano? Yeah, they didn't spare Trevor either, and reminded him that the podcast star defended him when he was announced as the new host of the show. Back then, controversial tweets from Noah resurfaced and he was under fire. Clearly, one of the two hasn't outgrown their edgy face. And so, there you have it. From Trevor Noah accusing him of being a racist to costing Spotify $4 billion because of Neil Young's boycott, these were the celebrities who hate Joe Rogan.